The environmental working group did so with what they claimed was a look at drinking water and its sources. I would like to call upon our public utility director, Dave Wright. This is really a statement about Riverside water being good, being tested both at the with state standards, by federal standards. We're very proud of the work of the utility department, and we take pride in the water that we drink in Riverside. Dave Wright.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, and basically I would like to say correct some information that's been out over the internet and on TV and the radio in the last few days. Somebody's walked off with the clicker here, so if I could have them advance the slide in the back, that would be great. They keep it under protective custody. I want to start with just the most important fact I can say about our water in Riverside. Our water is absolutely, completely safe to drink here in Riverside. In fact, it's the highest quality water that we can provide. It surpasses all federal and state standards, and it is completely safe to drink and good water. Our water quality meets or exceeds all state and federal requirements, and the state requirements are actually more stringent than the federal requirements. Our water is rigorously tested, it's then treated, it's then retested repeatedly before it gets to your tap. And the treatment is performed through several different filtration procedures. I'll describe those in a couple moments. And we've got to make a real strong and important point here on what groundwater is versus tap water. Groundwater is called non-potable water. It's the water that's in the ground before it comes up out of the wells. And that water is non-potable, meaning you can't put it in a pot and drink it. That's where that came from. Tap water is treated water. It meets and exceeds all these state and federal requirements. And we treat that to make it safe to drink, and that is also called potable water, which means that you can put it in a pot and drink it. It's very safe, completely healthy water. I'm not going to go through all these, but every little box here represents a treatment station for source water. It can be granulated activated carbon, ion exchange, chlorine, membrane treatment, but each one of these is a treatment of the source water. At the bottom of this slide, you'll see the Lyndon Evans Reservoir. All that water is treated there. It then comes to the Lyndon Evans Reservoir, which is the central distribution point where water is then sent through the local distribution system to the customers. Here's a map of the city that represents all of our distribution system. Those red dots, each one of those dots is a location where we then do repeated testing on the quality of water at each of those locations throughout the distribution system, and there's dozens of those, as you can see. So we're going to go over basically what happened. A group that calls itself the Environmental Working Group issued a report titled Over 300 Pollutants in U.S. Tap Water, and the report listed from best to worst the locations from their rankings of water quality, and they listed Riverside in the bottom 10 of water quality in the nation. Their reports basically reported untreated groundwater tests as tap water tests. So they were testing the groundwater, or taking the testing information from groundwater and applying it to the tap water test and saying our tap water was not safe to drink. This is extremely irresponsible and misleading, because that creates a public perception that the water that's coming out of their tap is not safe to drink, and again, it meets the highest quality standards and is absolutely safe. A couple interesting things, actually on their website, they recognize filtration, which is one of the ways we treat water, as a very valid form of treatment, and in fact receive a donation every time someone goes from their website to buy a water filtration system. They also have been challenged as a lobbying group, instead of providing factual reporting, creating information to lobby and push their point. with this report, the water providers throughout the nation were targeted, and the utilities are refuting this information because it's happening in a number of different utilities where groundwater tests are being reported as tap water tests. So we're refuting these claims as not factual and not real. They are confusing the two testing mechanisms, and one of the reasons they've stated on their website for doing this is they want to see groundwater treatment. That's absolutely what we're doing when we treat groundwater to put it into our distribution system that cleans up the groundwater, and over time the groundwater basins become free of contamination. But they felt that this reckless message of saying the tap water was contaminated apparently would promote groundwater treatment. So there's some sort of strange logic there that they use. Even today, the environmental working group cited the California Department of Health in their report as to where they got the numbers, but the California Department of Health stated about Riverside, the city conducts water testing in excess of the minimum department and regulatory requirements. The department finds that the water provided by the city of Riverside to its customer meets all primary and secondary drinking water standards. So not only are we taking numerous, thousands of tests on our water, making thousands of tests on our water with an independent lab, but the California Department of Health has said our water is safe to drink. And that just stands by itself. We test for over 370 possible contaminants in our system. In 2008, we pulled over 16,200 water samples. Some were source water samples, as you can see, 3,500. Over 5,000 were treatment plant compliance samples, and 7,600 were microbial samples. And we test for a number of different items listed there in the contaminant categories, even up to aesthetic standards. So 16,000 is a lot of samples. We're taking them on a daily basis, again, through independent labs. All of our testing results are reported to the California Department of Public Health, who shares that data with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So not only is it taken and reported to us, but the lab also reports that to those two state and federal agencies to make sure we're meeting all of our standards. We annually produce a consumer confidence report, also known as a water quality annual report, and I have copies here for anybody who'd like them here tonight. And that communication is made available to the public. We mail it out annually. It's also available not just for this year, but for a number of years previous to this year online. And you also can call us. All of the information is available at our RPU Water Quality Office. And I wanted to cite that not only do we provide the information, but we also translate into 6 languages information to say, please make sure that you can read this. If you have questions, we can get in contact with someone who can translate the information over the phone to that customer. Beyond that, every 3 years, we provide a report that lists the contaminants and the testing that are below any of the reporting thresholds. So we report anything that surpasses the threshold set by the state of California, the federal government, and every 3 years we report anything that's there. The treatment of groundwater is extremely common in the drinking water industry. Essentially, all water that comes out is treated in some way, from chlorination through filtration or a number of different approaches. We use several different ones. Granulated activated carbon is a filter. Ion exchange is essentially a filter where a chemical reaction pulls, in this case, a contaminant off of the water and puts it through an ion exchange process into another media. We do membrane filtration. And I actually have samples right here. That's the carbon. This is the media. That's the ion exchange. This is a membrane that filters out that, basically bacterial sort of things. And this is there's dozens of these in our John W. North filtration plant. And then we disinfect with chlorine. So all water delivered for drinking has been treated, blended, and tested repeatedly to make sure it's safe.